The Venturi Atlantique 300, an obscure French supercar from the 90s that I only know about because I played Gran Turismo 2. But if you didn't, allow me to explain. The history of Venturi is an interesting one, and it all started in 1984 with these two guys, Claude and Gerard, an engineer and a designer, both working at Heuliez, which was a renowned French coach builder responsible for cars like the Renault 5 Turbo and the Peugeot 205 T16. These two guys got together and decided to build the ultimate French GT car, a car that could rival the Porsches, Astons and Ferraris of the time. Ambitious. They unveiled their first prototype, the Venturi with a Y, at the 1984 Paris Motor Show, and it generated quite a lot of excitement. They raised funds from wealthy French businessmen, and all was well. Developments of the car continued, and they soon realised that the four-cylinder engine they were using wasn't powerful enough, so they upgraded to a V6 PRV engine. With 200 horsepower and a rather luxurious interior, the car made a good impression, and they started building around 15 units per month. They also made a convertible version called the Trans Cup. However, to raise the money they needed, they took on new investment, and these new investors, they were a little too ambitious. Why do I say that? Well, in 1991, they decided to buy an F1 team. Having bitten off more than they could chew, Venturi entered serious financial difficulty. And what do you do when that happens? Well, you start your own racing series, of course. This was actually a pretty awesome idea, and the plan was simple. Build another car, get wealthy people to buy it, and then when they do, they're automatically entered into a gentleman drivers championship, and the cost of the racing is covered by the cost of the car. Porsche has done something similar with the Porsche Cup, and the same goes for Ferrari with their FXX cars. And thank God Venturi did this, because it gave us the 400 GT, which is basically the French F40. Now this was a road-going version of the 400 Trophy, which was the car that was used in that race series, and it's still to this day one of the most powerful French road cars ever produced. It was also the first road car ever to come with carbon brakes as standard. The Gentleman Drivers Championship was a huge success, and it ran for 4 seasons. The guy who set the whole thing up was called Stéphane Rattel, and he was Venturi's competition director at the time. Rattel also set up the BPR series with Jürgen Barth and Patrick Peter, the latter of whom I've actually interviewed. This meant that Venturi also raced in the BPR series and at Le Mans, and while they never won Le Mans, they did have some good performances. In 1995, Paul Belmondo, who was the son of famous French actor Jean-Paul Belmondo, raced the Venturi 600 SLM, which was the most powerful racing car they'd ever produced. And it was around this time that Venturi started on a facelifted version of the Atlantique 300. This was the car that came closest to becoming the ultimate French Grand Tourer. It's mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, and also very light. It weighs only about 1,250 kilos, and it's got about 280 brake horsepower and a top speed of around 170 miles an hour. At the time it came out, it received a lot of praise. Jeremy Clarkson even said of the Atlantique, "It's like having your own personal fighter jet. I love it to death." But to judge this car on such crude metrics as performance is to miss the point, and given it's over 25 years old, doesn't really make much sense. It's far more sophisticated than that. Its design is elegant and understated. It doesn't shout or spit flames. Instead, it offers a rather charming and refined ownership experience. And this particular example is believed to be just one of 6 right-hand drive examples, and it's had over £35,000 spent on it in the last 5 years. Sadly, sales of the Atlantique were extremely poor, and the company went bankrupt in 2000. But along came Monegasque billionaire Gildo Pastor, who bought the company and started making these weird electric sports cars like the Venturi Fetish, a car that looks like the offspring of a VX220 and a Renault Spider. I don't want to kink shame, but what the Recently, Venturi's been off doing a bunch of side missions. They've been heavily involved in Formula E, they've been off doing some polar explorations, they've set some electric land speed records, and they've even reinvented the wheel. I'm not joking, they've literally reinvented a new wheel for their lunar rover, which is set to go to the moon on a SpaceX mission. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Sadly, this does mean no more analog French supercars. But if you own one of these French unicorns, you should find comfort in the fact that one day someone will ask you, so what do you drive? Me? I drive a Venturi. As much as I would like to drive off into the sunset in this car, I can't. But you could, and that's because it's currently for sale with Hangar 136 and available to view on Custodian. And if you do buy it, make sure you check out Custodian Insurance as well. I'm interviewing Richard Atwood next week, so that will be the next video on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But as per usual, thank you very much for watching, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.